being life wonderful. Welcome, everybody. Welcome this Sunday, August 7th. We are going to be having a special session today, something that you can take away from here and maybe do something in your own way. So that being said, I want to introduce the subject of interfaith chaplaincy. We have with us Miss Nusrat Scott. She has been so gracious enough to expose us to the subject and that such a thing exists. And probably you're also learning that it exists for the first time too. So just to start up and tell you, interreligious chaplaincy is something that you can bring in your community. And leaders with interreligious chaplaincy training can offer spiritual support to a range of clienteles. People learn the basics of interreligious chaplaincy from this type of curriculum. There is an urgent need for spiritual care in hospitals, universities, prisons, the military, immigration, family and social services, disaster relief, airports, and businesses in general. These courses give learners the skills and knowledge it gives learners the skills and knowledge that's necessary to support persons of different religious backgrounds in a variety of settings and stages of life. Understanding end-of-life counseling, theology, and ethics, which require familiarity with their interreligious training-based practical spiritual care foundation. The topic under discussion will give people the fundamental knowledge and skills they need to practice chaplaincy in both traditional and non-traditional settings. With that being said, Ms. Nusrat Scott is an Iranian Baha'i. Her name is Nusrat Solju Scott, and she is from Yazd. Her mother's parents traveled for a year in order to make the pilgrimage to Palestine, now called Israel, to see Baha'u'llah. Both of her grandfathers converted to the faith when they were young men. When she first arrived in America, Nusrat was surprised to find the American Baha'i newspaper in her mailbox, and that it was perfectly normal for her to hold or read a Baha'i book on the bus or subway, despite having heard about the freedom of religion in the United States of America. And just a reminder to everybody, to this day, Baha'is in Iran don't have that freedom that we have here in America to even receive such things. About 2 years later, she started volunteering as a librarian and gave the Yonkers New York Public Library her help in creating a section just for non-English speakers, primarily Persians. As a result of her consultation with the National Baha'i Office, Nusrat was able to obtain many reading materials and literary resources from Tehran, totaling roughly 90 books and several reference books. She was also able to acquire a few Persian Baha'i books from the Chicago Baha'i bookstore. A few years later, she relocated to Southern California because she believed the climate and her English would make serving the faith more substantial and meaningful. Among other things, she spoke with the local media about Tahirih and Newsweek magazine about the Iranian Baha'is. She then moved to Birmingham, Alabama for 2 years. While there, she worked to create a cultural musical program as a fundraising mechanism to support charity and disaster relief efforts during the famine in Ethiopia that was well received by the Red Cross for African famine relief in 1985. She received the Race Unity Proclamation from George Wallace, then governor of the state, on June 5, 1984. And as a special surprise, this award was read into the congressional record by then Congressman Ben Erdreich. On the eve of 1986, Nusrat moved to South Florida, where she continued to live her dream life while advocating for unity and diversity and the oneness of humanity. She attended the initial chaplain trainee seminars at the Memorial Regional Hospital in Hollywood, Florida. And yes, Florida has a city called Hollywood. About 24 years ago, she attended that session. And while serving as a member of the Interfaith Council of Greater Hollywood, Florida. And then she started working as a chaplain at the same hospital. As time went on, she eventually expanded her service to several more memorial hospitals. Interestingly enough, Dan Rather, a CBS television man who was working on a book about the American dream, was alerted to her tale in South Florida in a newspaper, a South Florida newspaper, when she was chosen president of the Interfaith. Knowing about the Baha'i community's condition in Iran brought to Dan's mind the Mayflower Pilgrim's first freedom-related dream, and he put Nusrat's tale in the same category. With that being said, we're going to be talking today now about interreligious chaplaincy. A lot of questions may arise, and we welcome them. Please raise your hands on Zoom here, leave your comments online on the Facebook comments or on the YouTube comments. As you're watching, we are looking at both the Facebook and YouTube while we go through this Zoom session. And again, you're welcome to join us on Zoom always on www.clearwaterbaha'is.org. To repeat, Clearwater Baha'is, plural, with an S at the end, .org. And you can join our Zoom link through that way. Now, if you have any questions, please raise your hands and we were happy to get to you. Also on Facebook and YouTube, we can send the link to you, just ask. Thanks. Ms. Nusrat, please, we're welcome to start this presentation now. Jeremiah's putting up the slides to get it to display, and we're ready to go. Welcome. How are you?
Good morning. I don't see me myself.
I can see you. Yes.
Okay,
everyone can see you. So just so you know, the person that we can all see is just you, the speaker, and then there's the slides.
Good morning. Hello to everybody. And I want to thank John and I don't see myself. I cannot talk. That's all right. That's okay.
Okay.
No, okay. I start talking without seeing anybody, just you. I want to thank John and Jeremiah very much to suggest this subject and continue and helping, and as you see right now, even helping and supporting. As they said, yes, I have been a volunteer chaplain for 24 years, and I didn't know one day I'm going to be interviewed about it. So because of this program, I'm thankful since I contacted all these hospitals again and learned more, renewed my information, and realized that we need to keep contact if we do something, because when we are gone, it may be left alone. So the 4 hospitals that I was volunteer at now, 1 is added. There are 5 of them. 2 of them don't take any volunteer chaplains. 1 of them is where I am. And the other 2, yes, they are ready to get someone. So people around me here, they can apply for these 2 hospitals if they want. Then in my conversation with these hospitals, I talked to the assistant chaplain in Memorial Regional, the first place that I started. She remembered me. And she said, she remembered I was a Baha'i when she went to Chicago. And she went to see the Baha'i House of Worship in Chicago. Then when she went to Holy Land, she went to see Baha'i places. She remembered me. So when she was telling me, I was in tears. And this word Baha'i was very much mentioned in my conversation with these hospitals, reminded me of the first time that in this country, I mentioned word Baha'i in a gathering. To continue my higher education, we had to take certain courses in English. So 2 weeks after I started, the teacher told all of us, okay, in 2 weeks later or beginning next week, you all have to start talking in the class about a subject that you like. Can you imagine a subject that you like to talk about? I knew what it was. So she was asking everybody, and I said, yes, my religion, Baha'i faith. And she was saying, okay to everybody. At night, I would go home and I take my 2 dictionaries, Farsi to English and English to Farsi, to write what I want to say a little bit. And then I had to memorize. I couldn't read it. But then I remembered, no, she's not going to let me talk about the Baha'i faith. The next day I went to her, I said, I want to talk about the Baha'i faith. And she said, yeah, okay. Then I went home again and started working. But no, deep prejudice starts rooting. I could not believe she's going to let me talk about the Baha'i faith in the class. The third time I went to her desk, I said, I'm a Baha'i from Iran. You told us to talk. I want to talk about the Baha'i faith. It's a religion. She said, she looked at me, just doubt what is wrong with her. She said, I told you, fine, okay, yes, talk about Baha'i faith. And my tears were running down. So I prepared my paper, my information, and memorized. But the first sentence I said in the class was, this is the first time in my life. I graduated from high school in Iran. I went 4 years to university in Iran, but this is the first time I'm mentioning the word Baha'i. This is what prejudice does to us. And will never go away. But thank God we are used to and we can do it. I also, because it's about visiting patients, want to say what Abdul Baha's idea was. I met this, in fact, the Yazdi Baha'i man in New Jersey when I was in Yonkers, New York. He had stayed in Haifa for 60 days in 1919 with Abdul Baha. And he has written few Baha'i books about his visiting with Abdul Baha or being there with Abdul Baha. One of them is, one story that he told us is that Abdul Baha told him that in a few days, this man and Abdul Baha are going to take a walk around the block. And he was very excited, happy, and waiting for that day. A couple hours before the time that they were going to walk, Abdul Baha called him and told him, yes, we were going to walk, you and I, but now I hear that one of the friends is sick and I'm going to pay visit to him. So our walk is going to be either never or we can make another time. So Abdul Baha kind of changed his promise to go to visit a patient. As I mentioned, because I talked to these people, these hospitals, I have some information for you, what is required now, but is not nationally or statewide. Is very much dependent on different hospitals, especially after COVID. And one of the hospitals or two of them still don't accept anyone, any chaplain because of COVID, but the other three do. It is that they check the background of the person and definitely all the vaccinations, even TB. I got this also after COVID. Then they say paperwork from church, which is a letter from, for example, our assembly is enough. And letters of recommendation that somebody knows this person is good in good character. Then they must go to two orientations. One is the hospital orientation and the other one is Chaplaincy Orientation. And when we go there as a chaplain, when we open our eyes, we see we can do little things. At that time, the word Baha'i was not, at the time that I started, the word Baha'i was not in the database of the hospitals, these few originals. So nobody knew that, nobody had asked. So it was a suggestion to add, and they did. I remember a Baha'i had said that she was a Baha'i, and they said it came other. And she said, I'm not other, I'm a Baha'i. So that was added. And then little by little, we added to some prayers. As you can now see, you can show them now. The first one that I gave you, I sent you. This is a list of 7 prayers, the signs of 7 religions. You have it?
I'm sorry, I don't have that ready.
Okay, I can talk about
If you
it.
can just read it, and then I'll add these afterwards. I can add these to the video and add it. Okay.
Okay. And there are the signs of religions on the internet. We can find that also. And 7, 8, 9, whatever it is. Sometimes you see 15 even. But on this, there are 7 signs, I believe. Of course, the Zoroastrian signs is not really accepted by Zoroastrians because it shows a ball of fire. And their sign is an angel, Ahura Mazda. And they would like that much better. And the Baha'i sign is there in all of them. Baha'i sign is. But then Baha'i prayer was not on the list of, in the brochure of Memorial Regional. And they added that. And the fact is that the chaplain there, I wanted him to kind of show the approval because it's the first time. So we are waiting. Or the Baha'i prayer was added to the regular little brochure that they give everybody, every patient. And since I noticed that Jewish rabbi and Catholic father, whatever, they have their own thing, they're allowed to bring it, I asked and added Baha'i prayers only, a brochure, only Baha'i prayers. I can show here. And I had the chaplain to put his card there to be sure they see it is his approval there. Then we made the same thing in Spanish. Do you want me to show it here? They can see it if I show.
Probably.
Oh, okay.
As soon as you put it up, we'll let you know.
You have it now?
Jeremiah?
No, I don't have the references. So I'll have to compile these references afterwards. And I can edit them into the footage. Okay. So if she just wants to read the references, that's going to be the best thing.
Okay.
Okay, this is the Baha'i prayer. Is it okay to see it?
Move it up just a little bit. There. Yeah, you had it. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
And here it
So that's in
shows
Spanish.
this is, and then, yeah. And then we have in English, the same thing in English. That, yeah.
That's still
And
in
this side
Spanish,
is
but
full of prayer.
yeah. So this is the brochure that is used at the hospital.
Yes, all hospitals started having these prayers. These are all only Baha'i prayers. In every hospital, they had this. And in regional, on their own brochure, they added the Baha'i prayer and Baha'i signs. And
So people are given the option to read this in multiple languages, and they're given the option to be able to
they
say the
added
prayer.
Baha'i sign to the signs of the, do you see that?
If you bring it up just a little bit more, bring it up. Yeah, keep going. Beautiful. Yeah, we see it now.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah.
And then we try to add more. I can see it myself now.
Yeah, it's cool. So
Yeah.
you're showing the progress of how
Exactly.
they
They started
gradually
with
include
4.
more.
They started with 4 signs. They added more, became 5, and then added more 6. And this is on the regular brochure. It's not only Baha'i prayer. This is all regular brochure. And then they had Baha'i prayers separate with the approval of the hospital. Then when it came to the time for 9/11, it was a really very bad time. Everybody was shaking. Our Muslim
You mean
friends.
September 11, 2001?
Yes. After that, it was very bad condition. And these are patients. We have to calm them down. So I had an idea to write the Muslim prayers, print from the Holy Quran. I typed and printed. And then in Arabic, I hand wrote the same prayers and was giving it to everybody, not only Muslims. I was giving to Americans because they had anger against Muslims, and Muslims were not guilty, really. All of them, millions of Muslims are not guilty. Few Muslims are doing wrong things. And then I came with these prayers from the Holy Quran also for them. And I still use these things in the hospital. As I said, we can do things sometimes, be creative. Then I made this Happy Mother's Day, taking from writings from all religions and give out. So Baha'i faith is mentioned from the Bab, from Abdul Baha, and from Baha'u'llah, and from other religions.
That's beautiful.
We see it is introducing the faith. And then in the hospital that I am right now, even on the regular writing, it's not prayer of any religion. It's just some positive writings that are good for patients to give them hope. But these signs are on the brochure. This is English, and this one is Spanish. The father in this hospital, when he saw my shirt, Baha'i shirt, he asked me to give him one. And of course I gave him. Right now, this prayer, this is Baha'i prayer, refresh and gladden my spirit. Those writings about for Muslims. And this book is in the chaplain's office. These are all, this is, done by a Baha'i.
Beautiful.
And one of the memorials few years ago, bought 12 of these books, and we had 2 of them, I think, in the office, and the others she put in on the different stations, nursing stations, and wrote to them, if when chaplains are not in the hospital, any patient wants prayers of any of these religions, make copy of that page and give it to them. So I want to, if you want, I can show you my shares also. Please, if you have any questions, come with question.
Jeremiah, could you display the slides now? So we've learned that interfaith chaplaincy involves
This is
coming
my,
in.
John,
So
this is
if I
the,
may ask Ms. Nosrat, if I may ask really quick, because right now we don't have it on full screen to show the shirt. We have on the screen right now the slide, which is asking what is interfaith chaplaincy. So in a statement, we can describe that interfaith chaplaincy is the act of coming in and speaking with people about important issues by simply providing emotional support to them while they're going through hard times, and being a representative of the various religious beliefs, not just one, and also exposing people to different religious truths. Am I correct on that?
yes,
So, Jeremiah, could you move to the next slide? So we heard your story a little bit, but could you explain why you became an interfaith chaplain? What inspired you to do this? We heard such an amazing story, and definitely a concept of having the freedom of expression was definitely a part of it. Can you tell us why you became an interfaith chaplain?
I was raised in a family that they always are asking about how are the family, how are the neighbors. And in Iran is ordinary that people have helpers at home, and they were sent the helpers here and there because there was no telephone or the others didn't have, to house everybody if we have to make it air teas and send it to them or some soup. And my mom always used me more for this here and there. So I got used to, and after I really became chaplain, I loved it. Do you really see people who want to talk? It's not necessarily prayers. They want to talk. I see more people want to talk. They have something in their chest. Even a rabbi, I said, oh, I'm rabbi myself. I said, I don't offer prayer. If somebody wants to talk, I said, come, sit on this chair. And he sat on his bed and started talking. So it really doesn't bother. I want to say something, some of my experiences, if you don't mind. First of
Please.
all, yeah, we have to be ready little by little to see things. Thank God for nurses and doctors, or hear things that are, but to me, patients are real people. Now they don't have anything show up, anyone to know anything. It is the condition that they have. And they need to say something or need to receive some talk, some words even. And sometimes they have been really wrongly something guided. I went to this room and this patient was middle-aged lady and was kind of worried. And I went, hello, how are you? And she said, not fine. I said, how is it? She said, I came here for one test and now they keep testing me and I'm worried. I said, do you like to pray? She looked at me and said, yes, but what? Is God here? I asked her if she's a believer. She said, yes. I said, then God has left you in this condition that you're worried and is not around you. She said in her hospital in her church, that there's about 200 only people. They have told her that God is only on that church. What do you feel crying for this person? I just looked at her and I said, okay, hopefully the members of your church are going to grow and you have to change the building. What is going to happen? God is going to run out of this and go to that one. She just did like this. She opened her eyes. I said, God is the owner of the world. In the Bible, it says God created the world. So he is everywhere. He, she, but who. So she opened her eyes. And that time, I just want to say another thing. I was carrying prayers of all religions. And she said, give me one of each. That is also I did out of the dream of a Baha'i to see a chaplain coming in. You want to see Baha'i prayer there. And I grew this wish of mine for all other people. I got praise of all religions, Buddhists, Hindus, Sikh, even Jehovah's Witnesses that time. They gave me prayers, now they don't. I made copies of it. And I had a container and I put them, it's a like basket, but I could put higher and lower for all of them to be seen at the same time. I thought I want every patient to see their own prayer here. One is not more important than the other. And that is why in the Memorial Regional I was one day, I was in Regional on Fridays and came home. On Monday morning, Mondays was my Memorial West. I came home and the phone rang. I picked up a reporter from Miami Herald calls and said, I want to come interview you. I said, okay. I said, when? He said, today. When? Now, it's 45 minutes. Where? How about your house? I said, okay. I looked around to see how is my house looking. And she was here in half hour, 45 minutes. Then she looked at me and said, do you know what I want to interview you for? About? I said, no, because I was in children program. I was in women in distress. I was teaching in homeless shelter. I was in Race Unity. I was in Dr. King. I was any committee that could exist. And I said, no. She said, a patient has called us. This is about your chaplaincy. Then my tears ran down. If a patient has been pleased, hopefully I've done right. And she said the patient has said that we take picture of your prayer container also. So they told me to go to the chapel of the Memorial Regional, carry my basket, and took my picture because of that. So we really, all of us have the same feelings. We want others to recognize what we love. And if they don't love, at least accept and respect it. This is the top of my life, accept and respect. And every religion says that. This is why we have golden rule in every religion.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's definitely a lot to be exposed to, a new point. It sounds like a lot of what Baha'is are trying to do is share our common belief in God with people and allow people to express themselves where they are coming from and just really listen. Just spending time with people to listen to them. It's not something where we're trying to share what we believe. It's what we're trying to do in having a conversation with people just by listening. And the body language we show, the hospitality, the love, the desire to learn more about the person creates that desire in them to want to learn about, well, why we're listening to them, perhaps. And it's not something that you have to say, well, I'm a Baha'i. I imagine, dear Nusrat, that you've met people and they just wanted to spend time with you, and then you both went your separate ways without having really mentioned much.
They do ask me about my religion. If there's a first question right away from patient, I say, I'm not.
Really?
Yes. And I tell them it's not about me, it's about you. How can I help you? How can I, what is that you need? And the sign of Baha'i faith that is on my shirt, some people ask about it. And I remember a gentleman even took a picture of it because he said he wanted to go on the internet and Google it. He wanted to have correct spelling of it. So we never, and a doctor in the hospital calls me Interfaith Chaplain. And he always says, other hospitals don't have an Interfaith Chaplain. We have in this hospital. So it is.
That's very intriguing. That's very intriguing. The idea that can you say what you say again when you go in to meet with people? So they ask you first off, like, what are you? And then you tell them what?
No, I'm telling them I'm not here for me. I'm here for you. It's not about me, it's about you. How can, then they ask, no, what is this? What religion you have? And one day they asked me about all these religions, that same doctor. And I said, of course, I have good things to say about all of them. He said, now, which one is the best? I said, all of them are wonderful. He said, what are you? Because I couldn't, say the way I said good things about all of them, he couldn't find out which one it's mine. So he had to ask.
So in terms of your representation to the people, you try to present the best of all the religions that you are working with.
It is.
So not one religion is being presented as better or the way or the only. You're presenting all of them and loving all of them.
Because religion is a spiritual teachings. And a spiritual teachings in all religions are the same. Be good, be nice, be honest. One day the prophet is not going to come. Beginning today, start lying or start stealing or whatever.
Yeah.
So that is the main. Social teaching is really, according to science, it is changing anyway, we want it or not. So that doesn't matter. Yes, all are from same God, all are divine, all are perfect spiritual teachings.
And we focus on this commonality that we all share.
Exactly. This is why when Jesus says, love thy neighbor or love thy enemy, what is it? Can you say higher than that? And all of them have said that. Now, when you knock on the door of your neighbor, you're going to see who are you and they love you, or Jesus didn't say knock on the door and then love them. Say love them without seeing them, without knowing them. They are human beings, and human being. This is another thing, really. And the first chapter of Genesis says God created man, means humanity. And in Quran, this is in khalaqal insan, and it means human being. So that they don't talk tall or short, white or red, green or yellow, anything but language, what do they eat, what do they do? It is human being that is important. The most important creation of God in Arabic or Farsi, Ashraf Makhluqat, is humanity. The world was created for humanity. All of them, not some of them.
So I want to ask, as a matter of not getting to the point, because the whole entire presentation is the point, but getting to the point where people understand how they can take this into their lives and not just internalize what we're talking about, but internalize that it's possible to become one. How did you go through the process to become an interfaith chaplain? How does one do it? How does one start on this journey to try to bridge understandings, to be a bridge of the emotions, to be really the person who walks with some people at the end of their lives? How do we start this process?
Very good question. They don't let you know, they let you do the first day, the first week. First of all, if you go there, you are willing to go. And you can tell them what level you want to do, or you're ready. And they are not pushing you to anything. And it's just visit the patient, maybe ask them and give them the prayer that they have or you have for them. If there are a few prayers, which one they like. Slow talking, if they want, they are thirsty. Chaplains don't touch the patients, don't do anything. Just they are there for talking or seeing or calm the patient down. If they need their nurses, you call the nurse. You don't touch their pillow or their blanket or nothing. So that is, if they ask you, they want the nurse, or can you do this for me? And say, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to. I call, and you call the nurse only. But little by little, you get used to, you see other things, and you maybe volunteer to do. And some of them is really kind of pray and become creative. A gentleman I saw in the hospital was very close to leaving this world. They were going to disconnect him from, for some. And then I am there and I ask his family, nothing. They say he doesn't have anyone except a daughter in Chicago. I said, call the daughter in Chicago. I hold the phone. Let him hear her voice in the last minute of his life. And of course, we did that. And you could see him as soon as he heard his daughter's voice. This was the relaxation you could see on them. A good and happy thing we did again. There was a patient in the hospital who was always playing and singing, was one of those countrymen. And at that time, I had a Baha'i lady friend who was on the radio. Believe it or not, I called from the hospital. They moved the man to a room to be all by himself and connected to the radio. And it was Christmas time. And he played and sang Christmas songs on the radio. So it was good for him. I couldn't believe that. It was just after that, you can do happy things. It's in the place that there are people of all kinds, all nationalities, and all different feelings, different beliefs, different ideas. And if we cannot do it, we just do whatever we can. Hope you are fine, hope you feel better.
So we contact our local hospital and talk about volunteering and offering to be an interfaith chaplain.
You start there, you go, definitely you have training first of all, talking about it, walk, and few weeks maybe you walk with someone, see what others are doing, and maybe you walk with more than one to see which one is more close to your style. Yes. And if you don't want, you leave. If you want, you continue, or you tell them what level you want to go. You want to do, you don't want to go to things that is not, we are not ready for it. Maybe.
It's very good to be exposed to this, because the simple act of choosing to volunteer at a hospital, it's something that is common to everyone across the world. Everyone has a hospital near to them if there are people that are getting sick or hurt. So naturally, we'll almost always have a hospital or some place to heal the wounded, to heal the sick. So with that being said, there's this common appeal that people have for end of life care, or even just going through hard times in general, that they want to confide in somebody and have someone to help them emotionally. And it's interesting because they're not asking per se for a psychologist. They're not asking for someone to diagnose them with problems. They just want someone to be there with them. They want someone there to accompany them through that part of their life. So this accompaniment that you provide, which started with asking how you can serve in your hospital, in your community, it's something that you're telling me has grown to other hospitals. Is this something that you individually applied per hospital to become an interfaith chaplain? Or and I want everyone to know that we misspelled chaplain on this slide. It's Plain, but it's okay for now, but just so you all know. That being said, that kind of threw me off, sorry, but you guys need to know chaplain is Chaplain. So if you want to look up what one is, you can spell it correctly, and hopefully Google will correct you. But the idea of becoming a chaplain in multiple institutions, how did that happen?
I did it myself. When I was in one place for maybe a year or so, I wanted to go to the other one. They accepted me. because I already was in experienced a little bit. And then I went to the third one. And this third one was a Polish Catholic father. And he asked me, in fact, if you have any recommendation, if you have any. And I took these that I had from the first place that I was. I have really very good recommendations. Thank God. I took and he took me, accepted me.
So what
And
kind of recommendations? Could you explain what you mean by that? With
uh,
recommendations?
yeah, they say I have letters that it's first of all they say I attended that chaplaincy training. I have that from them.
Okay, and that was with the hospital, or did you
Yes,
go
with the
to an
hospital.
institution?
With the hospital.
Okay,
The
with the hospital
hospital
itself.
had 2 weeks training, and
Okay.
I attended. And then at the end, there were some rabbis, some fathers, some ministers. There was no Muslim or Jewish, or I mean Muslim or Baha'i or Hindu. There were only those two religions, Christianity and Judaism. And they both, I have 3 letters from them that I finished and I'm successful, And then after that working, or I was in interfaith, those who recognized me, they were ready to write. In fact, one of them says, no, sir, is this what you want? After recommendation is asking. So they recommended, and the 4th hospital, when they were opening, they invited me in their opening even celebration. So I was part of that. And it helped a lot. I got learn about Vietnamese group here. Another thing, for example, I saw a Vietnamese patient who couldn't speak any English, and I don't know Vietnamese. But one of my nephews is married to a Vietnamese in California. I called her. I said, can you talk to my patient? And she said, yes. I brought the phone to him. And they had a nice conversation. Just to see the good feelings on the face of patient in the hospital, it's just unbelievable.
Mhm.
Best thing you can ask for.
Thank you for exposing us to that. It's these experiences really help us to understand a little bit more what it's about. Jeremiah, could you change the slide, please? So, of course, we have quite a bit of time to go through a lot of issues, a lot of positives, a lot of interesting stories. So I know you wanted to show your shirt. Can we see the shirt? And Jeremiah, if you'd actually allow her to.
You see that?
Yes, yes. So this is the shirt that you wear, right?
That's right. That I call this my chaplaincy uniform.
Well, it's nice because you're allowing people to get exposed to stuff they've never seen before. So we have which symbols now? We have on top Zoroastrianism. That is the wings, the traditional wings. That's the angel.
That's angel, yes.
So that's
Ahura
Ahura
Mazda.
Mazda. And then on the left, you have for Islam, the star and the crescent. And then we have for Buddhism, the wheel. And then for Hinduism below, which it's hard to see on this one, if you could lower it a little bit, we have the Om sign. And then on the right going up, again, we have the Star of David for Judaism. And then for Christianity, the cross. And in the middle, you have the 9-pointed star for the Baha'i faith. Beautiful.
The father of the hospital asked for this, and I gave him one. And the head of nursing asked for one.
That's beautiful because you're exposing everybody to very diverse symbols that
They say
people may
they
not.
believe that God is in, Torah's teaching are in all these religions. That's the main thing, not to be against anyone.
So we have a question for you, and it's just a flat out repeat maybe of a point that was discussed, but still it's a question, and hopefully you can help on this. Is the essence of chaplaincy accompaniment?
to me is, I take it as I'm there to comfort the patient as much as I can. If the family is there, the family, and if the friend is their family. And of course,
So what does that mean? What does that mean when you're there to comfort the patient? I mean, it's a beautiful goal, but how does someone who doesn't understand coming into this and hearing about comforting people, what does that mean in a very basic, I've never been exposed to this approach? Imagine, I'm not used to hospitality. I'm not used to the beautiful kindness that you described that you grew up with as a child, coming in and wanting to find it for myself and then create it in the venue for others. What is this?
the very easy way,
Comforting people.
very easy way, this regular sentence that we all use, how may I help you?
Mm.
Is, are you cold? Sometimes they're on the blanket, say, are you cold? That's what they want to hear. Yes. You want more blanket? Yes. So you have done it. Or they are upset, like that. Are you in pain? You can the face of this pain. Are you in pain? They say yes. Is there anything I can do for you? Do you have to take medication? Did you take your medication for pain? Which is the nurse is supposed to. So we really they say that. I'm in pain. I didn't sleep last night. I fell. Then you ask them, what are you here for? Not by forcing them. May I tell you, what are you here for? And if they start, they keep busy talking, they forget their condition. They see someone is listening to them, and eye to eye. It really puts yourself on their shoes. That helps, even temporarily, it helps.
That's interesting. So we're talking about in comforting people,
Mhm.
in a way, just being hospitable to somebody, to be concerned with their well-being, that they're staying in the hospital, they don't know anybody there, they're alone, and you're coming in and being their friend, maybe the only friend they have in the hospital.
That's exactly how we feel. Another time, for example, I said, we cannot do anything. It's about 10:30 in the morning. I go, I see a patient, an elderly lady sitting there with a smile, beautiful. And her breakfast is in front of her untouched. I come and say, how are you? I say, are you hungry? Then she looks at me, are you hungry? Did you have? Then I asked the nursing station. I said, her breakfast is there, and she looks, she's hungry, but she doesn't talk. And they say, yeah, her daughter normally comes, gives her, and she said, how about a nurse? They say, we don't have anyone right now. I said, may I feed her? I asked them. I got permission. They said, yes. I sat there and fed this lady. But I promise you, we have to see them as our mother. You see yourself in this condition one day, mother, your father, your brother, your child. There is no other way that we're going to be in that condition or our family. So how do we want someone else to treat them? That is how we treat. I was giving her breakfast, and she was eating it very, with good appetite, and was hungry. And all of a sudden, another lady comes and starts looking at me, and I don't know who that lady is. I said, I'm sorry, she was hungry. And I asked the nursing station, Anthony. She said, and then she said she was her daughter. I said, okay, you want? I said, no, you continue. She stood there, she sat there. I fed the lady to the end. She finished everything. And we can do, but we have to find out if we are supposed to. And really go, to me, we go as far as possible. If you cannot, as I say, it doesn't, nobody forces you. Do as much at the beginning, especially as you can, you want to. I always say when I'm going, I don't know what am I going for. When I'm coming back, I know what I was there today. And it feels
Yes,
you did something, God willing.
that's very beautiful. This expression of caring about your fellow human beings in a very intimate way. and it's one of the few places that we can, I think, really do that today in our society, where everyone walls each other off, be it through just having their own property and being separated away from everybody. This is one of those communal spaces in hospitals environments that you're able to really express that love with people you would never see otherwise.
You
So
answer the needs. That's the main thing. You answer
the needs.
if possible, if you want, the level you want. As I said, there is no force. Nobody tells
And
you must do that.
and you're saying that people may tell you, but sometimes you also have to infer it and then investigate a little more with
little
body
bit.
language.
Yes, a little bit you can do that. May I? Do you want? Are you thirsty? A little bit something. If you say you are thirsty, then maybe they think, no, I'm hungry. You never know. Or their food is untouched.
Yes.
Then you realize they don't want the food, or they have not been able to eat it. Then I call the nurse.
Yeah, and also I know in hospital environment they have sometimes they put on, I forget what it is, you're not allowed to drink. There's like a letters they put on the patient's door and on the
Yes.
in the patient's environment. What do you call it when they're not allowed to drink?
Oh yes, there's no fluid, but we
Yeah,
don't.
no fluid. Yeah, so for example, if there's a patient and the hospital has something that's like an emergency, they want to make sure no one does it. The hospital is also very good about communicating that to the person, so they don't have to think very hard. So if, for example, the patient is thirsty, but they're not allowed to drink, they can only have cubed ice or something like that to hydrate, then that's a whole nother story as well.
But we don't do it. We tell the nurse, this is nurses do. We don't do anything on that.
Yeah, so that's when you would be asking for the nurse if they're asking because they say they're thirsty and they can't drink. The nurse comes in and the nurse will deal with that. You just relay the message.
They are cold, they are hot, you're thirsty, the pillow is too much, it's not enough. All these things goes to the nurse. But you are there.
And no one's forcing you to be in that room. So if you find that maybe the person's not very interested, are they the ones asking for you to come in? Is the person
there are people who ask, yes. Because when we go to the hospital, we let them know, they announce that the chaplain is here. If any patient wants the chaplain, tell the nurses. So sometimes you go to that floor and the nurse says that room. So otherwise you look for the rooms that you see somebody's not sleeping, is not busy. They look, maybe you can get in, or you ask, I am volunteer chaplain, may I visit you?
So you're telling me that when you come in, they'll announce, and the persons that choose to have someone to be with them, they will alert the staff, and then those staff will relay it to you. Mm-hmm. And then in addition to that, you may find people who may not have alerted the staff, but they are still interested in having company.
Exactly. You pass the room, then slowly look inside and see the patient. You feel if not, to ask them, you go inside, I'm volunteer chaplain, and may I visit you? Some openly say no, thank you, and say fine. But mostly say yes.
That's interesting. So where are you now in this journey of being an interfaith chaplain?
I am going to check with other two hospitals that I talked to them, and they said, yes, you may come. And the other one that they don't want anyone, and I have to go back to bring these prayers. Remember the lady who said, yes, she remembers I'm a Baha'i. She is the assistant chaplain in that hospital, Memorial Regional. Now I found a way that, I can be in contact with them again. Go back to all,
Interesting.
There are not many.
There are not many what?
There are not many Baha'is everywhere to go to these hospitals here to remind them. So we have to say, even if there are not many, there are sometimes there. And they put the prayers in the chapel, high prayers in the chapel. We have to because when I was there, I was doing this. And now I'm not there. Nobody else is doing. I have to go. As much as I can go back, I'm going to go back.
That's good to know. So it's pretty much the people that care about it are the people who continue it, are the people who replenish the supplies as well.
Exactly.
So as it relates to this journey, and again, trying to understand bits and pieces more, this is something that you consulted with Baha'i institutions about, and I know that a lot of people may have that question about how do they engage in their local community? Do they tell their local spiritual assembly that they want to serve in this way, and so forth? And I'm not sure they're considered home visits in the context of the hospital being the temporary home of the person. What is it? What is it from your perspective in terms of this part of your journey, the consultation with your spiritual community, the Baha'is? How did this process unfold?
I have announced it from the beginning that I'm doing this, and the other hospital, another hospital, they all agreed. Nothing has happened. But in this area, we don't have any other Baha'i. I don't know about other areas. Chaplain, we don't have. But I have heard even few people like to start trying.
Well, you mentioned to me that you received a phone call once from like another state
Yes.
about learning how to become an interfaith chaplain. And it kind of also was the reason for this beautiful session here. Can you elaborate on that story you told me?
Yes. Apparently, I think in Texas, a rabbi had become Baha'i, and he wanted to continue visiting patients. And then he had asked him if there is any other chaplain, Baha'i chaplain, had asked the national, and they had told him about me.
So he called in and asked the U.S. Baha'i National Center.
Yes, because he didn't know about any in his area, the Baha'i chaplain. I had never called national to say I'm a chaplain, but somehow they knew it. They had told him about me.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Maybe because of that interview, I have no idea.
And maybe, and also it's always good as the Baha'is are connected through the country. You have members of the auxiliary board. You have auxiliary board members.
They all know also. They all know. Yeah.
You have people who, of course, communicate with all the institutions. So it's nice that this service has touched people's hearts such that they remember to tell another gentleman that he too can take a similar path. So it's very beautiful to be able to share the knowledge and experience. And
in every religion, service to humanity is recommended, to the point that we can, of course, it's not forced as much as we can. And
I think a prequel to that is prerequisite is love. If you don't love doing it, if you don't do it with joy, you shouldn't be helping people.
And you don't want, No, I really enjoy. I have been going, and I'm going to go as long as I can.
Because you love doing it, you enjoy doing it.
I see the need, and I come to tears. How can I stop? Can you imagine if they need a little bit, say, go there or sit or listen to them or watch them, and then I say no to that? How can I do that? And I see them, my parents, my brothers, my sisters, we are all one. And I always know one day, somewhere, I'm going to be one of them.
Of course. There's definitely a lot of deep thought in what you just said. A lot of deep thought. And definitely we all know that it's a part of our life journey, this progression through life. We're born in one, usually a hospital, and we we hope for the best way to go to pass on to the next world, but sometimes it's not as pleasant, and having someone to make it more pleasant like yourself is a big part of it. Thank you. And actually, we have a question from Miss Barbara Kamali. If Barbara, if you could unmute yourself, and if you could turn your video on.
Oh, I don't want to turn my video on. It's not a question, it's just a comment. Nosrat's my friend. You will never meet anybody who works harder for Baha'u'llah than her. This is just a minute portion of her life and what she does for the faith. And she's always telling me about her stories when she's working as a chaplain, but she's just an amazing person, a fantastic Baha'i. That's it. No video.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
that's beautiful. Yes, thank you for sharing that. So there's so much more we can learn about this subject, and I think this was an adequate introduction. If anyone has questions, please raise your hand. Also, Jeremiah is looking here on Facebook and YouTube at the comments during this live stream. So I understand as question. Oh, Alex, please.
All right. There we go. This has just been wonderful, very inspiring. And John, what's been going on in my mind, John was commenting about this, that this is so much a part of what our daily life can be like, to offer this, whether it's almost like we're all meant to be interfaith chaplains for one another. It was making me think of a prayer, a Baha'i prayer that refers to us as ministering servants, which is wonderful. I know of 2 other Baha'is who have done this, and one of them was like yourself in hospitals, and the other was in her building. She lived in I think it was a senior living facility, something like that. And she was the chaplain for that facility, so that there are other possible avenues for this kind of service. Yeah, which is wonderful. I had stepped away, so you might have addressed this, but my question was, the only time I've been around chaplains was if the person was at the end of life and hospice or someone had arranged for them to come, but what is the sort of daily experience like? Do you have a set time that you go, and are you just waiting for people to call on you, or are you moving around?
Certain days are my days. I go to the hospital, and that day, whatever is there, it's my work to do. Mm-hmm. Now I'm responsible for it. Of course, if I cannot do or I need help, it's different. I always say I'm not a Catholic, because Catholic people want the father to come and, or the nuns. I tell them, and we have a hospital, we have a church nearby, Catholic church, that if we call them, they come. But there are some Catholics that still, they say, no, I accept you if you do it. So we ask them, and honest, I always say I'm not a Catholic. When they call me, even different times, maybe, I tell them, if the patient is Catholic, ask them if they want a non-Catholic or not. I believe in Jesus, I believe in Christianity, but I'm not. So we really, the first thing is honesty and willing to comfort the patient. If they're 2 years old, if they're 20 years old, if they're 100 years old, it doesn't matter. It's a soul there. Soul. And at the beginning, it was asking at the beginning. At the beginning, I had to train myself before I go to the room. You're going to see a soul, and you're dealing with the soul, and you're before God. And it is, to me, it's true, is what it is. Some people say it's a story, I accept that. If I can deal with God. I have had the condition that you say that they wanted to separate 2 times. In fact, I had. One was a gentleman that I found that he had only a daughter. I mentioned that. And the daughter was in Chicago. We called the girl, and she was on the phone with her father. before they separated and they took the electricity. And another time was a lady, her 3 children, they were adults, 2 boys and 1 young lady, and they were there, and they knew if they disconnected, she's going to be gone. So that was, I became my responsibility. But really, it is easy always, you put yourself in their shoes, and now they are nervous. Now they don't know what to do. It is good to remind them. Do you want to talk to her? Do you want to pray with her or for her? If you don't want me here, I go out. I make sure, because later on they remember, they say they wish they had done that. You know, we all are human beings. In the second, we don't know what to do, but they, later on they say, I should have done that. And they all 3, they said prayers for the mother, and then they allowed to be disconnected. One time, you see, these things that you're facing, one time they wanted to disconnect. And the family came and said, please don't disconnect. We don't have money for burial. So thank God they did disconnect, but 2 days later they disconnected. The patient was good, was good. Another time, if you want, you know, thing that happens once in a million. Another time, a young couple had missed the baby, miscarriage. And the baby, the size was in a bottle, and they didn't let the nurse take the bottle out. And the hospital called me. So I had to find a way to please them, to calm them down, that they allow this to be taken. So
what is your common approach when you first enter a room? If you said, would you like a visit, and they said yes, how do you generally begin the conversation?
This depends on the patient, if they can talk, or how long have you been here, what are you here for, is everything okay? To me, it's very important for patient to have a visitor. Do you have visitors? And sometimes you see really a husband and wife, they get a bed or big chair and stay there all the time that their spouse is there. I admire it. I tell them, write this story. But people cannot, they have to go to work. They have other responsibilities too. They all cannot do that. But hopefully once in a while for family, or there are people here that they have been traveling here and they get sick and they're in the hospital and they have no one. You have any condition you can think of or not to. Everything else. We had a Baha'i family from Barbados. They have come. In fact, it was in Memorial Regional. And the lady passed here. And the family went there and came back for burial here. Because Baha'is, we don't carry the bodies. We never know about life today or tomorrow. So we are dealing with unknown on ourselves and on others.
It's very inspiring. You're in a position to be of service and to be used by the Holy Spirit. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that today.
Thank you. And how?
Yeah.
Definitely, these questions Alex was able to ask you were so valuable, because again, these kinds of things are what people want to know. So they know what they're expecting and, well, what not to expect as well, to have no expectations of certain kinds. And that is something that's definitely going to be each and every single time a unique experience. It's always going to be unique because you're always going to meet.
At the same time, I don't want people to be disappointed. If you want to go, go. I want to do simple things only. Go there, say hello. If they want prayer, I give them. Just don't go to patients who they are in, worse conditions or whatever. And see what you can do and keep your own level. That's all, because you are not really forced to.
So the takeaway on that you're saying is manage your expectations and also, if you have limitations, make sure that you try to respect your own limitations so you can continue your act of service, not one and done.
Exactly. If you cannot do, just don't do that, but continue what you can. We always can do something, and you really start with simple way. And if you don't want, never you go to something else. So when they call you for talk to this lady, we're gonna amputate her leg. Can you imagine? And
That's rough. Losing a leg is not something anyone
no. Now you go to the room of this lady. She's a happy lady with makeup, fine, happy. And then you look at her leg. One has already been amputated.
Oh,
Now they want to go for the second one. So
Mm.
while we were talking and praying, do you believe they opened the door? They said, no, we don't have to do it.
wow.
Isn't that something?
That is something. That's a story.
I'm saying, you never know what you're going to be
What a
facing.
story.
And it depends what you can. If when they tell you go to this place because we want to do, say, no, I cannot go, I don't go. And they don't force you. But depends. And God knew I could not face it, but I was there. So they came and said, no, we don't have to do it.
I mean, those are for the people, especially going through those miracles that they love to remember.
But
So
these
they
things are
have
once
to-
in a blue moon, really. The regular things is regular people, 2 days, 5 days, they go to the hospital and thank God they go home and they are happy that they're released to go home. And that
Yeah.
happens a million times, a lot more.
Yes.
That is
And
the
through
norm.
all of this, you're also coming in and not knowing what the situation is going to be, but you're coming in and wanting to serve
Mhm.
because you love to do it,
I know.
because you love to make someone happy, to at least be there for them through their rough time, and to also carry the name of God, of all religions.
Of all reason, couple of people believe not Baha'is. They wanted me to, if I want, attend their prayer gathering after death. I visited at 7 p.m. For example, this lady said at 12 o'clock. I said, I'm going to be here 12 midnight. Why not? I wanted to be. She's not forcing. She said,
Okay.
but as I'm saying, all I want to make it easy for those who like to do. It's going to be your level at the beginning. If you want to go further, you go. If you don't want, you don't. And
again, don't overextend. If you feel that
Oh.
you're overextending, don't do it, right?
don't do it right away. See your limit, find it, the day, the time that you want to go, 1 hour or 5 hours is all up to you because you are volunteer. What
Yes.
kind of rooms you want to go? You don't want to go to ICU, you don't want to go to CCU, don't go. So, because that starts, a little bit higher level. And the rooms, they say, don't touch the patient, you have to stay far from them, but you can smile, say, hello, how are you? How's things going on? I'm sure you're better than yesterday. I always ask, are you better than when you came? And they say, yes, wow, wonderful. It shows it's progressing, it's positive. Find
Very
a
good.
positive point no matter what. It's sunny. Your window is, sunshine is coming in, something. And there is always something.
Thank you for sharing this. I think that it's about time for us to start closing up for today, as we've come and we're nearing the 12:30 hard stop for today.
And it's time
I want to.
and it's time to wish a better life for Baha'is in Iran.
Yes. Today and this past week, we had terrible news from Iran about the Baha'is in Iran, what they're going through. A whole village, they came in and demolished homes, kicked people out of the village, didn't allow people to come in or out of the village, didn't allow people to film the acts that were happening. A lot of people with deep-seated prejudice decided to come in and say that this village of Baha'is cannot remain as is. They need to go. And that's what they're dealing with. And they went in across the country. They've gathered people to interrogate them about their expression of their faith. So with that being said, definitely there's a lot to pray for. Perhaps we could, as a matter of in Jeremiah, if you want to share your screen for this, we could say a prayer for aid and assistance and a prayer for the departed. But if you could just pull up the one for the departed, Jeremiah, a prayer for the departed. I have one for aid and assistance that I can read. There's a prayer from the Bob. I'll be reading for aid and assistance. And Jeremiah, if you're pulling up the one for the departed, that would be great. Oh my God, my Lord and my Master, I have detached myself from my kindred and have sought through thee to become independent of all that dwell on earth, and ever ready to receive that which is praiseworthy in thy sight. Bestow on me such good as will make me independent of aught else but thee, and grant me an ample share of thy boundless favors. Verily, thou art the Lord of grace abounding. Glory be to thee, O Lord my God. Abase not him whom thou hast exalted through the power of thine everlasting sovereignty, and remove not far from thee him whom thou hast caused to enter the tabernacle of thine eternity. Wilt thou cast away, O my God, him whom thou hast overshadowed with thy lordship? And wilt thou turn away from thee, O my desire, him to whom thou hast been a refuge? Canst thou degrade him whom thou hast uplifted, or forget him whom thou didst enable to remember thee? Glorified, immensely glorified art thou. Thou art he who from everlasting hath been the king of the entire creation and its prime mover. And thou wilt to everlasting remain the Lord of all created things and their ordainer. Glorified art thou, O my God. If thou ceasest to be merciful unto thy servants, who then will show mercy unto them? And if thou refusest to succor thy loved ones, who is there that can succor them? Glorified, immeasurably glorified art thou. Thou art adored in thy truth, and thee do we all verily worship. And thou art manifest in thy justice, and to thee do we all verily bear witness. Thou art in truth beloved in thy grace. No God is there but thee, to help in peril, the self-subsisting. We wish all of you a wonderful Sunday, and again, hopefully full of inspiration to embark in a similar task like what we have Miss Nosrat Scott here has exposed us to. And dear Nosrat, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, sharing these stories with us.
I appreciate and thank you. You made me learn more and renew really my information. Thank you so much. We all have same goal. We all have same goal, and we are helping each other. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, we are. Yes.